Hey everybody, Tina here with Our Blessed and Beautiful Life. Welcome back to my channel. I wanted to give you guys an update on something that's been kind of playing out in our lives, this journey of adoption that we have been working on. And I was actually going to record a video yesterday, and I actually decided not to. I decided to wait and allow myself to calm down a little bit and woo-saw just a little bit. So I was frustrated, and I just wanted a chance to really, think my thoughts out before I spoke on them. So we started the process of trying to adopt a child in 2018. It was the fall of 2018, and I shared a lot of this, and there goes the dog again. It is inevitable every time I turn the camera on. Anyway, we decided that we wanted to adopt, and I had been updating my family and friends on Facebook through live videos and things like that. But now that I kind of have my YouTube channel, I've kind of thrown in a little bit here and there about us trying to adopt in some of my videos. And I just wanted to share that journey with you guys as well. Because this really is, my channel really is about our whole family and kind of everything that our life is about. So the adoption obviously right now is playing a really big part of that. So fast forward to now, because like I said, we first started this journey 2 years ago, and we got approved for our home study back in the fall of 2018. And we decided to do private adoption through a private agency. Well, I guess I shouldn't say a private adoption, but we are adopting from foster care. So we're not trying to adopt an infant or anything like that. Even though babies are absolutely amazing, we don't have babies anymore. Lexi is 17 years old and Parker is 7, and we really just wanted to adopt a child from foster care that was around about Parker's age, so that he would have someone that he could grow with as a companion, and a brother and a friend. And so we started that, we started to pursue that journey. So there's a couple different ways that we could go about doing it. And of course we considered the option to foster, and you can foster to adopt, or you can just be a foster parent, or you can just adopt. So we explored the fostering option, and for us, we didn't want to foster. And I kind of grew up in the system and was in and out of foster care as a teenager. So I'm familiar with what that looks like. I'm familiar with, social services and foster parents and what that looks like and feels like. And we just decided that the possibility of falling in love with a child just to have them ripped out of our home is not something that we wanted to go through over and over again. Because with fostering, the goal is reunification of the family. So until the parental rights are terminated, the goal is always to reunify if that's a possibility. So we just decided that we didn't want to go that route. So we chose to adopt from foster care. So basically adopting a child that is in foster care, whose parental rights have already been terminated and is legally free for adoption. So that's our journey that we've chosen. It took us like 1.5 years to find a little boy, and not on our part. We submitted many inquiries on children that we found that we wanted to adopt, but some of them, the caseworkers never responded to us. Sometimes it would take 6 months for them to respond, and then by that time they would say, oh, we've already chosen another family. So it was quite frustrating. I was 1.5 years in or so, I was starting to think, maybe we're not supposed to do this. I don't know. So anyway, it's kind of funny because the first boy, one of the first little boys that we ever inquired about, 1.5 years down the road, 1.5 years after we inquired about him, we finally got a response, and they said, we've looked over your home study. We think that you might be a good match for him. So his name is Jackson, and he is 8 years old. And we were ecstatic. It was like the first positive response that we had since we started this whole journey. And we went up to the state that he lives in and we visited him for a weekend and decided from that visit that he was definitely someone that we wanted to pursue. Parker and him hit it off. I mean, it was nothing but Legos and superheroes the whole weekend. And he was just sweet, you know. It was very surreal walking in to meet him for the first time and seeing him sitting there, that this is actually happening. And so after the visit and we decided that we wanted to move forward with him, then it was like, what's next? You know, we started looking at the process of how do we actually make this happen? What paperwork needs to be done. It is an interstate transfer because we live in Virginia and he lives in a different state. So there's additional approvals, and I feel like I have a bug bite. Something keeps itching my forehead. I feel like I got bit by a mosquito. So hopefully I don't have a big well on the camera. I can't tell. But so they told us that even though we had completed our home study in Virginia just a year prior, that you know, in Virginia it's good for 2 years. But in Michigan, they require it to be revised annually. So one of the requirement was for us to pursue Jackson was to get a revised home study, and also a new inspection of the new house, because our first home study that was done, our initial one, was done when we lived in the farmhouse. So being that we have moved, the worker has to come back into our home and inspect everything, make sure that it's safe, that he has a place, you know, he would have a room, somewhere to sleep, all that stuff. So my personality is, you give me a task and I'm gonna knock it out, because that's just who I am. Like I don't procrastinate. I do not lollygag like my mama used to say. I just get it done. So they gave me my list, boom, boom, boom. This is what we need. So everything entailed with revising that home study, you know, everything from, providing financial statements of our income versus our debt and our monthly expenses, and background checks, fingerprints. We all had to get physicals again with our doctors, and you know, the re-inspection of the home, cleaning it, making sure all the cleaning supplies were locked up, all of our guns were locked up in a safe. We had a fire extinguisher in the house. I mean, there's like a checklist that they give you. So it's not like you're shooting in the dark on how to get your home ready for this, but it was just, redoing all of it was a little frustrating because we had just done it, but because this state where he is at requires the revision to be done annually, we had to comply with that. So immediately we did. And I mean, literally when we got back from visiting him the first time, probably 2 weeks after that, we had everything done. We went and got our fingerprints, redid the financial statements, doctor's appointments, boom, 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 knocked it out, submitted it to our agency worker. And we have a private adoption resource that we're using here in Virginia. They're licensed in the state of Virginia. That's who we chose to use. That's who we paid to come and do everything and give us our home study. The other option to that is going through the state. You can go to social services where you live, and they can also complete a home study for you to be a foster parent or an adoptive parent. Let me just talk on that really quick. And it kind of plays into my frustration with this adoption update that I'm giving to you guys right now. And believe me when I say, I know that there are a lot of different opinions. This is just my opinion from my experiences growing up and kind of what I believe. And so by all means, you may not feel the same way that I do, which is totally fine. But you know, this is my channel. This is the way that we're doing things. And so I'm gonna share with you how I feel. So we did not desire at any point, which is part of the reason why we chose not to foster, we did not desire at any point to have the state in our home. I know from growing up in foster care and going through reunification programs with my mom, because of the issues that we had and the dysfunction in our life, that once CPS gets in your home, it is very hard to get them out. It is something that can just follow you and plague your family for years to come. And depending on your situation, depending on your worker, you know, ethics come into play, bias come into play. And I am a very private person, and I am very opinionated on the things that I believe in as a Christian, and with society and culture tainting the home the way that it is right now, the last thing that I want in my home is the government. So, which is part of the reason I pulled my son out of public school and am homeschooling him. I want to be in control of his education. I want to be in control of what he is learning at school, and I want to make sure that it aligns with my beliefs as a Christian, mine and Joe's beliefs as a Christian. And I'm sorry, but the things that society and the culture is pushing certainly does not align with the Bible and how God expects us to live our lives. So going through a private adoption agency was more comfortable for me and Joe. So that's what we did. Our private adoption agency has been the one from the get-go that has walked us through this process, completed our home study, completed our inspections and everything. So we completed everything that the state required us to do for Jackson, submitted it. Now, meanwhile, this was probably, we saw him in November, and it's now almost the end of January. So we're talking a good 2 months since we submitted the paperwork to kind of get him, the approval to have him placed in our home. So it's been about 2 months that we have been consistently communicating with Jackson. We're writing him letters, he's writing us, and we're calling him and talking to him and just really getting to know him and kind of creating that bond with him. And we haven't gone back to see him yet, just because obviously it's not feasible for us to fly back and forth all month long to go see him, plane tickets, hotel costs and everything. So, we were talking about planning another trip up to see him, or they were even saying they could potentially request approval to let him come and stay with us for a few days, being that our background checks came back good and all that good stuff. So my frustration, now I'm kind of getting to my point. My frustration comes from an email that I got yesterday. So we have completed everything they've asked us to do, and I literally got an email yesterday. Mind you, they told us the soonest that we could have Jackson placed with us would be March-ish. The latest would be June or July, like sometime this summer, just because it is an interstate transfer and there are additional things they have to do for that. So we've been banking on those timeframes in mind. And again, everything has been done, submitted. We've just supposedly been waiting for the approvals, yada, yada. And I get an email yesterday that very bluntly, plainly, clearly in just a paragraph says that the state that Jackson lives in does not contract through private adoption agencies for post-placement care. So post-placement care is once they place Jackson with us, there's a 6-month temporary placement where our worker would come out once a month, inspect our living situation, interview Jackson, interview us, basically just making sure that we're a good fit for each other, that everything's going well, that we're all happy with everything. So once that 6-month temporary placement is done, and if everything goes well, then at that point, that's when you move forward to filing for the adoption to be finalized. So this whole time, our private agency has broken down the cost for us of what that monthly visit's going to cost us every month, all these fees that are associated with it. And the email yesterday basically said that his state does not allow the contracting through private adoption agencies, which would mean we would have to go through the state of Virginia, our local Department of Social Services office, to get a approved home study through the state. So I don't know if that makes sense to you guys. So basically, we already had an approved home study that we paid for through our private adoption agency in the state of Virginia that is a licensed adoption agency. Not only did we already have that, we've already redone and revised and reamped it to adopt Jackson upon the request of the state that he is residing in. They have been telling us this entire time that that is all we needed to do to move forward with this adoption. And of course, there's things behind the scenes that they have to do. So anyway, the email basically said that we can't use our private adoption agency, and we would essentially have to redo everything that we literally just got done doing. I basically emailed all, I replied to all, and very clearly said that is not an option for our family. Number one, somebody in this process from the state that he lives in should have known prior to this moment if that were the case, if we had to use the local state social services office versus being able to use a private adoption agency. But they didn't tell us that. They allowed us to believe, in fact, told us that it was okay, this is all they needed from us, and have been communicating via email with our private adoption worker for 2 months. And now they're saying we can't use her to complete this adoption for us. So I basically told them, if the state where he is living will not make an exception and allow our private agency to perform the post-placement procedures and all of that, we do not wish to move forward. I will not be strong-armed into using the state to come into my home. I will not pay money, again, any kind of money, even though most of the time when you go through your state it's free, but I won't pay any kind of money to redo a home study that I've already done, and nor will I put my family through going through this process yet a third time because they couldn't get their crap together. And really that's what it boils down to. Lack of communication, disorganization by the very people that should know the process the best, clearly just didn't have a clue what avenue, what route we should have been going down. And they knew that the family inquiring of Jackson was an out-of-state family. So it's quite frustrating. So where we're at now, they are talking to their supervisors and trying to determine if the state where he's living will make an exception to let him, to let our private agency perform the post-placement procedures. And if not, then unfortunately we're going to have to take a different route as far as a different child. And that's the hardest part. I feel like they have done Jackson a huge disservice. They have failed him. He has been in the center that he lives in right now for I think 1.5 years. He's been in the system for over 2 years. And you look at these children that are in foster care that are legally freed for adoption, and you wonder, why is it taking so long when there's thousands of families that are approved and ready to take them in? A lot of the times it is, it's a breakdown in the system. And so I just really feel like they failed Jackson, and I don't know how they're gonna tell him, the Watson family, well, yeah, you're not gonna be going to live with them because we really screwed up on our end. And you guys, I wanna tell you, it is not our lack of willingness to do what's required to get Jackson. We did do what was required to get Jackson. We did what they told us to do, everything, A to Z. But now, after all that effort, all that money, they're saying, oh, just kidding, our bad. We didn't really know what we were talking about, so everything you did means nothing, and we need you to completely shift gears to this whole other process over here if you want him. So I just wanted to give you guys an update, and hopefully the state where he's living will make an exception. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I will say praying for God's will in our life and in Jackson's life and on this journey of adoption is first and foremost. You guys, I have kicked down the door many times on decisions in my life where God was clearly saying, no, this is not where you're supposed to go. This is not what I want you to do. But I wanted it so bad, I kicked down the door and I made it happen anyway. And then I am left with heartache and battle after battle because of the decision that I made. And I really, as I'm growing and getting older, I'm really trying to be quiet and be still and prayerful and really look for God's voice in the decisions that we're making for our family. So I am praying about it, and I've kind of made up my mind that if they will make an exception and allow us to use our private adoption agency, then in my mind that is a door open from God for us to adopt Jackson. If they come back and say, no, we can't, we must do this other process through the state, in my mind that is a door closed that says, maybe this isn't the child for your family, maybe this, for whatever reason, is not supposed to be, and I'm gonna take it for what it is. There is freedom in the decision. How many times do we teeter on a big decision in our life and we can just about make ourselves crazy, right? Trying to decide, oh, what do I do? Do I go this way? Do I go this way? And sometimes you just have to make a decision. It doesn't have to be so convoluted. It can be, more black and white. And to me, I don't have the energy anymore to sit on a fence and teeter-totter and stress myself out. Like, it is what it is. Either they're gonna allow this or they're not. And if not, we are gonna continue to move forward and find the child that's right for our family. So I am praying, we are praying for our family, and we are praying for Jackson that God will make a way so that we can have him here with us. So anyway, that is my update for now, you guys, and I'll keep you guys posted on that. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you enjoyed this little video. I know it's a little bit chatty, but if you did enjoy this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. I love having you guys follow us on our journey of our life, you know, our crazy journey, just cooking and homeschooling and the adoption and chickens and all these different things, right? It's just a compilation of our crazy life, right? So I do appreciate you guys, and I will see you on the next video. Until then, take care.